I've just glued the linings on this tenor ukulele. This is the back, so it's got a 12-foot radius on it. And I'm going to take these clamps off and then sand on a radius dish, sand the edges of the sides to take the back. Now that the tops are off, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there's a curve to the back there. That's a 12-foot radius that I've sanded into the edges of this on the radius board previously to installing these linings. So now I'm going to set up the radius board. This is a 12-foot radius board that I made, and I can make another video on how to do this. There are a lot of videos on making radius boards, or radius dishes they're often called, but they almost all of them use like a particle board substance, which is actually quite toxic, the glue in it. So I like making mine out of plywood because they're not toxic, and they come out really well. Rather than spend $80 on a piece of sandpaper to fit this, I just take regular sheets of sandpaper and I glue them together so that they fit this size. I'm going to raise this up just slightly so that I have room to clamp it with my clamps, clamp the sandpaper in place so it doesn't go skidding all over the place when I start sanding the sides of that. So I put that on there like that, raise it up, and then I just clamp the corners. These front two corners are actually also clamped to my workbench, so that keeps everything really stable. And there we have it. So this is 100 grit sandpaper, and when I'm sanding this, what has a tendency to happen is it'll chatter a little bit, and the ukulele will kind of have a tendency to migrate in the mold. So to avoid that, what I do is I, through these holes that I use for clamping the back and the sides on, I put a couple of carriage bolts. And I have this piece here that fits right on here, comme ça. And this will, when I'm sanding, will keep the ukulele from moving up in the mold. It also keeps it nice and flat in here. And you can see on the back, these are the carriage bolts that I put in through those holes, and I've just pre-made that. I use it for over and over and over again. So I don't know if you can see, but the lining is slightly proud of the side there, and I do that purposefully because with the radius I want this inner edge to be able to extend a little beyond the side and to conform to the 12-inch radius curve. And you can see we're starting to sand, and you can see where it's like sanding in this area more in this area more, some over in here. So it just takes a little while to get it all so it's perfectly conforms to the radius dish. Check it every once in a while to make sure everything's going okay. Yeah, and we're starting to get up onto this heel block a little bit, which is nice because I want to take that down so that it sits against the entire surface of the back when it goes on. This one is going to actually be taking it more off of this inside because, you know, it's going to come this way, right? So actually it comes off the back too. So anyway, this is coming along quite nicely. You can see that it's actually starting to be pretty flush all the way around. It's sanding evenly, which is nice. The waist areas are going to need a little more, I can see. So we're getting there. It's close. Yeah, another indication that we're getting to where we need to be is you can see that the different color here of the sanding dust is from the block. This block is coming down nice and even. This one looks good. A little bit more here on the waist on this side. If you find that you're not exactly even, you want to check it. The easiest way to do that is to lay a straight edge across the top like this, parallel to one of the braces, so that you know that the you're measuring across the same place because it's different heights, and then just measure down to the thing. And we're right now this is right at 7 centimeters, and this one is a little bit. Okay, it's a little bit more than 7 centimeters. So what that means is that this side is a little higher than that side. So we want to take this side down a little bit more than that side. And the way we do that is when we sand it, we remember this is the side we want to take down a little bit more. So when we do this, now we can actually twist this way slightly, so we put more pressure on this side when we're sanding, but still keep it flat so that it maintains its integrity. There we go. Let's check it again. Make sure everything is going the way we want it. It looks like it has been taking more off this side, which is good. I'm just sighting down to make sure that this is parallel to that interior brace that's just below the sound hole. So we'll measure this. Okay, so we're just not quite 7 centimeters here, and we're not quite 7 centimeters here. So it's just about perfect now. So we still want to take a little bit more off, but we're just going to go for a little more. Okay, that chattering that we're hearing is actually these blocks are just vibrating slightly because the sides have some flexibility to them. So this is looking awfully good. I'm liking this. I'm really happy with the way all of this looks. So that's really good. Okay, so I think we're good now. And so I'll just do one last check here to make sure that everything, and I'm going to measure it down here where it's a little further apart, and I'm keeping the same place. I'm looking at these two heads of these two bolts here, and we'll see what we've got here. Okay, so this is going to be 69 millimeters here, and it is 69 millimeters there. So it is perfectly flat. So that's the sanding of the sides to take the back with a radius, and I think you can see on there the radius curve that it's going to be. Now the back itself, which is right here, already has the braces glued onto it, and those braces, I lay them on the radius board and then mark them and then plane the curve into them so that they have that same 12-foot radius. So now I just have to trim these slightly and mortise these linings so that the little nubs of these cross braces will sit inside the linings, but not all the way through. I see a lot of people that what they do is that they just take a little saw and they just cut all the way through, clear through the side, knowing that when they put the binding on, the binding's going to cover that. I prefer not to do that for the reason that I use that as a guide to make sure that the top or the back sits on properly and isn't going to be sliding back and forth this way through those grooves. So if it's held in that position, that'll be good. I've marked a center line here so that I can mark that center with this line in the mold to make sure that it's centered properly. The little edge that'll stick out over the edge can be trimmed off later with a router. So anyway, so now what I'm going to do is take it out of the mold, mark it for these things, and then we'll go from there.